Gents, I just want to pause the episode for a moment to let you know about the Strong Men of Value Academy. You will have heard me refer to it a number of times, and I want to bring more attention to it. So this isn't just a program, it's a life-changing environment and community of men who are focused on personal and professional growth. We're looking at areas of relationships, wealth, and health, things to help you thrive and maximize your life. Imagine having bi-monthly one-on-one coaching sessions with myself, weekly group coaching calls, and an incredible brotherhood of high achievers by your side. Now we're diving into resilience, leadership, and holistic growth to not just succeed in your career, but to thrive in your health and your relationships. Your journey to greatness, it starts here. So join the movement and you can apply for the Strong Men of Value Academy. You can head to themanthatcanproject.com to find out more. Today's guest is Darren from Weaponware. Now, Darren and I have been mates for, I'm coming up 5 years, I reckon. I was first introduced to him through a mate, and I actually became a brand ambassador for their company, Weaponware, for a few years there, which was awesome. And it's great to see what they're doing in the apparel space, but also linking up with men's mental health. But now even some exciting news, they're going into the women's space as well, with obviously Weaponware for the boys, SORA for the females, which is very excited. So stay tuned for that. I'll have links in the bios. Now, during this chat, we speak about ownership, and Daz talks about how there was a moment in his life with a lot of back pain, and that was limiting his ability to be a great parent and husband, and how a conversation that happened at one of our men's circles actually gave him the sort of kick in the ass that he needed to take ownership and change his story, which has helped him change his life. So that cliche saying, change your story, change your life, lives true in this conversation. We also talk about parenting and being a present parent and being mindful with how you think, act, and behave, and how that can influence others. Super important, gentlemen. We also talk about acceptance of self, right? Learning to dive deep and grab back that personal power, right? To really understand and see the value that you have to offer the world. I really believe, gentlemen, that if you buckle in or sit down with that coffee, wherever you are, you will take away so much from this conversation. It was extremely genuine. And I even share a little experience that I had with Darren 18 months ago, and how I reacted to it, not responded, but reacted to it. And it was a great opportunity for me to talk about that, because I never really have. And it just came up through conversation. I was very grateful to be able to get that off my chest. So dive into this one, gentlemen. You'll take a whole heap away. And before we go in, I really want to take the time to thank you guys for all of your support throughout listening, sharing, leaving reviews throughout 2021. We had our biggest download year. And once again, this podcast would just be me chatting to people or talking into a microphone if you guys didn't get value from it and listen to it. So thank you so much for doing that. Now, if you do get value from episodes, once, like I said, this grows as our community grows. It's really, we are so dependent upon word of mouth, and you guys taking that extra 60 to 90 seconds to share it on your social medias. Don't forget to tag us, or even take that moment to leave a review, because every time you leave a review, it tells that iTunes that, hey, the Man That Can Project podcast is fucking boss and more people need to hear it. So let's pump it up the charts a little bit. So thank you guys for doing that. You can, it means a whole heap. And it's January 17, head over to the Instagram page. You can jump on the wait list, and you can also apply to be accepted into the next Strong Men of Value Academy 12-week game plan. So that's kicking off January 17. Obviously, get in now, because we will start accepting you guys from the 11th. So if you make the cut, and obviously the reason when I say we make the cut, because we want to have a group of men who are going to put the time aside, because like I said, the community grows from input and that law of circulation, right? You get out what you give. And that's what we're big believers in. So if it's not the right time and space, or I don't feel you're a good fit, I'm going to direct you where you may get more value. So gents, enough from me. Let's dive into this episode with Darren. Thank you guys for tuning in all year, and may you have a fucking unbelievable Christmas.
You're listening to the Man That Can Project with Lachlan Stuart, a global movement created to empower men and open up what's really going through their minds by having real and raw conversations about life's unique challenges and our individual ways of processing it all. Welcome to the Man That Can Project.
Daz, welcome, mate. Great to have you on here.
Good to be here.
It's been a long time coming, mate.
Oh, I can't tell you how I'm excited to be here. It's like been a lifetime goal to be on this podcast. So I'm nervous and happy and excited all at the same time.
You'll feel comfortable in no time at all. I still remember like my very first podcast when I was even just talking to myself. You're like, well, people, like, how will I sound to people? Will I fuck up what I'm going to say? And I still do that today. I fumble my words, or I watch back and I'm like, I could have articulated that a little bit better. But the most important thing is to have fun. Like, it's going to be awesome. You're a super highly intellectual individual. You've got a heap of value to offer. So I know you're going to come through with that. And as Daz rocked up, I was literally walking out to the balcony just to go sit there until I got a text from you or something. Just get some heat because it's pretty cold in here. And I saw you coming over the balcony. You brought a heap of goodies for me, which is epic. We've got to look at a brand new cap. I was saying I literally go through caps like underpants because I buy them every time I go to play golf, and then I put them somewhere and they get lost. And then we've got the new
tactical backpack.
Tactical backpack here full of, there's a whole heap of stuff in here, which we'll run through that shortly.
Yeah, cool.
There's a heap of stuff in there, which is exciting. But how have you been, mate? Like 2021, 2020 even has been an interesting time for a lot of people. What's it been like for you?
Yeah, it's been amazing growth. Like for me, what was, a lot of things I discovered about myself, but the most thing when I didn't have to travel in traffic, I realized that I had all this time in the day during 2020, and I went, okay, it's time to do some burpees. So, I was pretty unfit at the beginning of 2020 and lost 17 kilos from March to June.
17?
Yeah, 17.
What do you do differently apart from a few burpees?
Well, actually, it's a really funny story. It came about from when we're sitting in Newstead. We would at one of your men's circles, and I was talking about my back pain and all that kind of stuff. And then someone shared with me about the back pain. They said, that's who you are now. That's not who you are. And you said, what would life be like if you took that approach? And so I just went, okay, that's it. I'm done with this back pain. And from the week afterwards, we just started training in Pilates. And then from there, just, my back started getting better and better. And one of my mates, JP, just said, look, I'm going to be committed to supporting you through this. So every week for over a year, we were up to 2 years now. So it'll be 2 years in January, we would have done Pilates week on week. And just slowly over that time it built. And then when I got to the point where I was a bit stronger in my core, started just going hell to leather outside doing high intensity workouts.
So I remember your back was like properly fucked.
Yeah,
like,
it was.
I remember you'd make a little bit of progress because you were training with Brad. It was Brad at the time?
Yeah.
And you'd make a little bit of progress and then it'd go twang again all of a sudden. So obviously throughout having that mindset shift, because you can probably throw that way of thinking into many areas of your life where we're attached to something on ourselves, whether it's being sad all the time or overweight or having a sore back. But it's like, yes, that may be where you're at currently, but that doesn't define who you are as an individual. How was it like when you made that decision to just go, look, that's not me anymore? Did you feel empowered again, even though it was a long journey? It's been 2 years and counting.
Yeah, it was. And it was just crazy how it just happened. It was just like, it just kind of struck right through me. And I was like, yeah, why am I living this life? Like, this is who I am. Like, what would it be like? And it was instant. It was like, okay, that's who I am right now, but it's not who I am. This is the pain I've got. And so, I just kind of embraced the kind of seeing the other side and really got committed to it. And I think that was the big thing. I think Pilates and commitment to it. But I'd been to physios for like 12 years. Like I've been to that many physios. I think I have been to every physio in Brisbane. Now that's a massive exaggeration, but I've been to enough.
Close to, yeah.
I've been to everyone in New Farm at the time, and so I'd been to enough of them, and I'd been training. And the problem was I couldn't even get the dumbbell off the rack in January of 2020. So 20 kilos was too much for me. Yeah. So I spent 2019 from June lying on the ground. So when my child was born, she actually didn't know me as an adult standing up. She knew me as an adult lying down. So our entire first 6-7 months, I was on the ground. I couldn't get off the ground. I lay there, like when I came home from work, just lay on the ground for hours and hours. And that's
How
what I did.
did you feel through that period, like especially with a young daughter?
Well, interestingly enough, running an activewear company while being stuck on the ground, not doing anything, was pretty, I suppose, demoralizing, but also I felt like an imposter. So it was really hard for me coming to some of those sessions where I'd be like, hey, I'll hold the camera, there's several times I came and filmed you guys where I was like, oh, I'll hold the camera, and just felt out of place. And I felt, my entire life had been centered around fitness and whatnot. And I had this identity of fitness, and my back was so bad that I just couldn't do fitness. So I was like, okay, well, this is me. Like, this is my life now. I'm going to be drugged up on painkillers, and that's how I'm going to live life. And that's kind of where I kind of got to until we started talking about it in January 2020. And then I started taking responsibility for it, which I think is going to be the big theme of today's discussion. Yeah. Taking responsibility for it. And, I was kind of lost. I was very lost, actually. Like, I was looking at this going, I can't even pick up a dumbbell. I can't pick my daughter up. I would go to places and we'd put her on my arm, and I'd lean my arm so I could hold her because I couldn't carry her. And it was just pain all the time. And amazingly enough, it was mindset first, and then Pilates that got me there.
That is insane to think, though. And I know you said you're exaggerating with how many physios you saw, but you saw a lot of physios. And I think a lot of us are looking for solutions in so many different ways, but we often avoid looking at ourselves to go, what am I missing here? Or what am I not first accepting? Because emotional pain is a huge thing, and it can have obviously the physiological responses within the body. And I guess that victim mindset where it's like, poor me, how do you ever expect to climb out of that, which is the challenging thing. So having seen your transformation, and even to see you training as much as you're training now without even having any, I'm sure you maybe have some niggles with the back, but like doing what you've done over the last 18 months is pretty empowering. And for me, it just really reaffirms the importance of taking ownership of your mindset and how you want to think, but also just determining who you're going to be. And I guess, as you said with JP's been there, great bloke as well. JP's been there to support you, so you've had that accountability. You've also had that mateship, which is, I believe, are two very important things when I wanted to create change. Yeah, and there's something big in that. There was the mindset, but also the brotherhood of the gym. So I could be a gym goer for a long, long time, but once we actually created that, okay, we're going to be here for each other on these days at this time, there was accountability, but there's also like, I don't want to let him down, but we were working in it on a team, and we're both in this together. And so he had a back injury as well, so we were both going through it together, and he'd discover something new when his Pilates, and he'd bring it to me and say, hey, we want to try this. So just bringing to reference what's going on. So when January, actually it was January this year, I had a bit of a flare-up again, and I was only really doing about 40 kilo deadlifts at that time. So January 2020, I couldn't do the bar. Then I was doing 40, and I said, look, guys, my goal for 2021 is I want to do a 120 kilo deadlift by December. Okay, that was my goal. Accidentally in November, we miscalculated the plates, and somehow me and Jason put 120 on, and I just lifted it up and I went, hey, was that 110 or was that 120? We were like, oh, Jesus, 120. And I was like, oh, we're no top. Hold on, wait, that's a month early. I done it. And I was like, I forgot I set that goal in January. I got so into like, this is where I'm going, that it just became part of my training, part of who I was. I was like there every Wednesday, Friday training towards this. And last week we did 130. So 2 times 130. So I'm celebrating 130 kilos from not even being able to pick up the barbell a year and a half ago, or January last year. So it's been massive. Well done. That's huge. Like, and I'm sure it feels really empowering for you to see the benefit of the hard work paying off as well. I think one thing that I notice, a lot of people just don't show up for themselves enough, and that's why often we don't get the results that we're looking for. But then people might even be listening to this and go, oh yeah, but the significance behind the consistency of showing up for yourself and showing up for someone else is a reason why you've added 130 kilos, which is substantial. 0 to 130 is fucking huge in 12 months. Yeah. And to me, it just comes back to the fact that you didn't shy away from the commitment and the responsibility that you laid out in front of you. And I think also one of the most important things, even, we're at the end of the year, so it's good for a lot of people to start thinking about is setting goals and having a good plan in play to achieve that. How did you navigate, obviously, let's even just say this year, as you said, you run an activewear company. You are also a dad, a husband. You have another profession career as well. You've got a lot of plates that you're balancing on your fingers. How do you manage all of that while still working on your fitness? Because people are as busy as you are, find it very easy to go, I don't have time for my health and fitness. Yeah. Why do you still prioritize it?
It was interesting. This very wise man a couple of years ago said to me, I said, I don't have enough time for fitness. And this guy said, you seem very busy, but what would look like if your reward to do your work was doing your fitness first? Do you remember saying that to me?
It's funny when you say that. Yeah.
That was years ago. And that's actually stuck with me. And it's been like one of those things that kind of like, if I did the fitness first, I got to do the work. Like I got to go back and like work. And whenever my life has gone off the rails and mental health or physical health or the stresses pile on, I look at myself and whatever the first thing I've cut out, it's always fitness, because I'm like, oh, now we're back. And it's always a dirty road. It's just, and then I get to the point where I'm like, what did I do? Oh, I did that again. I dropped fitness, and I bring fitness back, and then everything starts coming back again. And so for me, it's fitness first to get, like, the most genius things I come up with are like that moment in the gym, just afterwards, just after the shower or something, I have all this clarity and stuff like that. So for me, it was that, like, doing the workout first and then get into work. But I think the real distinction of why I've managed to get to 130, and it's really great you're wearing that shirt, because it's actually my main word for 2021 and it's my new life motto is integrity. And I think what I understand integrity now is different to what I used to. And so what showed up for me was that I was like the guy that would always be on time to everyone else's events. Like, you're there at 4:00, I'm not going to be late. I'm going to show up for everyone. Like, I showed up for everyone. There's no way something occurs to me where I won't message someone and say I'm going to be there. But how I showed up for myself was completely different. And that's what I discovered, is like I was not in integrity with myself. Like, I would give myself excuses for going to the gym. You're too tired, you're too, you're sore, you're not going to get there. And I just had all these excuses, and there was no integrity in it. And the interesting thing about integrity is, while I said I had integrity with my friends, and, I thought I did, and I refer to myself as integrity. Integrity is like a drop of ink in a bucket. Like, it just spreads out. And when you have a lack of integrity and you drop that into a bucket, it just goes, and like, I didn't have any integrity with myself. And so if I didn't have integrity with myself, was a really kind of integrity. And what integrity looked like to me was that there was zero events that occur in my mind where I'm not going to the gym. So if I said I'm going to be there at 5:30, there's no kind of like way that occurs to me that I'm going to sleep in, right? I've got to the point now through just consistently working on this that my body actually tells me it's tomorrow is gym day and you're going to go. I don't even use a calendar for this because it's become a habit. But it was integrity that got me. I'm not going to let myself slip on this. To the point in Gary Keller's, you read his book, like The One Thing? It's an amazing book. He talks about habits. So in the initial phase when I was working with JP, it was like, I've got to be there on time at 5:30 to make sure I'm not late for him. So I was kind of like about him again, And then I went, after a certain while, it started becoming this bit of habit. But I was like, no, I'm doing this for me. Like, I'm going to be here for me. And then there's times that he couldn't make it and whatnot. And I was there every time at 5:30. Starting training, like just continually. So the point now it becomes an absolute habit. Like it does not occur to me not to go at that time. And 66 days passed. It's now part of my life. And now I have like absolute integrity with that. Like, I will be there. There's been nights where I've been up almost all night with my daughter. Like, I've got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old and she's screaming all night. And again, I'm still there. And so I'm like, it's just become this thing where integrity is, there is no lack of it. It's just you did it or you didn't. It's like,
definitely. Thanks for sharing that, because that's a powerful way to separate what it means. Like, a lot of people do show up for things that are bigger than themselves or other people, but you're always, the first thing to sacrifice is like, oh, I'll sacrifice maybe the time you want to read, maybe the time with your partner. I was thinking about this today. I have a coffee on Monday, which I just rescheduled because I make all these coffees and I always try to set intention with them. But this one was organized at the Christmas party. And I was like, well, I haven't spent much time with my wife lately. I could, like, that time would be better used with my wife, like, unless there's some sole intention. So I was like, I'm going to have to send out a form for, like, what's the purpose of this coffee? Because as much as I want to catch up with people and want to do all that sort of stuff, I also want to be a good husband. So that it requires that hour currently with how my life's been is probably better off used there. So I think to everyone listening, what Darren said, so like highlighted really well for me, is the importance of making sure that while at the beginning, the word maybe just something bigger than yourself, like you said, like JP or whatever it is, like eventually if you do it consistently enough, you're going to start seeing why it's important for yourself to start showing up. And it's a reason why I believe so many high achievers and higher performers, regardless of what's going on in their life. You said you had many sleepless nights. That's the perfect, once again, excuse to go, not showing up. It's not happening. But you've now at that point where you back yourself and you trust yourself and you support yourself, which then inspires other people. But you also have mates that are there to do that with you. So once again, for everyone who's sort of sitting there thinking about what could, how can I get to that consistent point? If you keep falling short, if you've tried to work towards something and just keep failing, quote unquote, it's like find something bigger than yourself. Or for me, when I started getting away from the drugs and the drinking, I had 7 body challenges in a row, back to back, because I couldn't say no. So the easiest way to say no to my mates was I can't drink or I can't do that because I'm going to win this body challenge. I never won one, but that was, for me, was the easiest excuse until I got on my own 2 feet and was like, I don't need to drink. So there are plenty of tools, whether you have a good support network like you do, Daz, or if you don't have that, find things that you can lean on that are going to help you, be like your training wheels until you learn to stand on your own 2 feet.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting is that like what occurs to me when I look at someone else that's got that, I go, man, they've got so much discipline. Look at them go. Like, they get up at 5:30 and they go to the gym man, they must just like eat discipline for breakfast. And that's the kind of perception, like it's a bowl of discipline. But actually what occurs is they had discipline in the beginning and they just held themselves to integrity and said, I'm not going to let this slip until it becomes a habit. And it's not actually that long. Like it's 66 days. The science says that 66 days, the assumption is it's 21, but it's actually 66 days. And if you get yourself to that point, you all of a sudden start realizing that you're no longer thinking about this. It's just become who you are. And that discipline only required in the beginning. And it's just, I'm very, very aware of biking. You don't think about it now. Driving, you can do math in your head while you're driving. There's so many things in your life that just become habit and have become habit in a positive or a negative way. Sometimes more negative ones. And you realize that it was actually some discipline originally that was keeping you there to do something. And so for me, I realized discipline is only required until it becomes a habit. So another one I took on this year was cold showers. Someone challenged me, why don't you do cold showers? And I said, not for me. And I went, oh, man, this is where I am now. I've got to do everything I resist.
Yep.
So middle of winter, I'm like, cold showers it is. So I started doing cold showers, and the first one sucked balls. It was so cold. It was the middle of winter. It was like those, I don't know where it is, but the water temperature's like ambient. And I'm like sitting there going, this is the worst pits. You're like 10 seconds is terrible, right? Your body's shaking and stuff like that. But then I got out and I was like, whoa, my skin's alive. Like I'm feeling good. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do tomorrow's one. And then like, I'm going to do the next one. And then I got to 7 days and I went, okay, maybe what would happen if I did 2 weeks? And then all of a sudden I'm at a month. And then all of a sudden, and now I've been doing cold showers since the middle of June. And I actually cannot get out of the shower now without slamming it onto cold and just sitting there because it's now become a habit. And it's kind of funny. I was just it was discipline to start with to keep me in the shower. Admittedly, it's a lot warmer now in summer, but for now, it's like I'm not going to let myself get out of the shower without being cold. So for now, I am now doing cold showers every day, no matter what, as a habit.
It's awesome. What would you say, like from your own experience, for someone who is looking to do or just create a new habit in general, what would be that sort of process that you yourself would go through? So there's plenty of people out there who go, oh, it's easy for Daz, because whatever you're telling yourself out there, people. But like you've obviously, because there's a difference between the logic and the rational part of our mind, right? So the emotional part of our mind. In order for you to be disciplined enough, you're still going to have some kickbacks, right? Or did you was it an easy decision for you? Or did you have moments where you're like, I'm not fucking doing this? Or
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Those first 10 seconds were horrible. And the first 10 seconds were horrible for like 60 days. But no, it was kind of like what showed up for me in my life that I really didn't want to do.
Yep.
And where was a positive habit? Could I create a positive habit? And I'd heard a lot of good things about cold showers and stuff like that. This is an example. And so I went, okay, this is a positive habit I want to bring into my life. And I went, I'm going to commit to giving this a go. And it was around what habit is going to serve me. And I suppose that's where I kind of went, a habit of going to the gym every Wednesday and Friday is a very good habit to have. And so for me, it's, I picked the thing that I didn't want to do the most, but it was a positive habit. So I went, okay, I'm gonna get to the point where getting up in the morning early as is no longer a problem for me. And I'm going to get to the point where having a cold shower is no longer a problem for me. Same thing, the similar around some of the negative habits. I went, I'm going to get to the point where I'm not having a drink every night because I'm trying to drown my pain. And that's where I was before my back pain. I was like, okay, I'm going to say I'm committed to not drinking on this day, and then I'm going to do that again tomorrow, and then just like baby steps. And then I got to the point where I went like 6 months without drinking. But it was like, what is a positive change I can make? What is something that's going to serve me well? And then replace a bad habit with that. And that kind of helped me. So, then the drinking got in the way of going to the gym. So like, why am I going to do that? Because, like I've got this positive habit. So yeah.
It's that beautiful ripple effect. And it's definitely important. Like I think those habits, build on themselves. And I truly believe one of the reasons how I live my life and the regiment and stuff is it's there for a purpose, because it allows me to be efficient, working towards the thing that I want, and give myself the best opportunity to have good mental, emotional, physical health, which is really important to me. And as for yourself, going through those moments in life where you realize you have more control over the outcomes than maybe many people out there believe, it's pretty powerful to go, okay, well, I want to be, and I think the first point is like, where do you want to be in your life in 5 years' time, or whatever that timeline you choose? And because then you can start working back, like what habits do I need to have that are going to allow me to do that? Because rather than going, geez, I need to learn or create 50 different habits today, it's very overwhelming and it's probably not possible. We can just go brick by brick.
Yeah.
As you said, last year was just getting back into the gym was an important one, healing your back, and then the cold showers. I'm sure you had a few others, but you just do something that's not completely overwhelming, and you can see the progress and experience what that's like. And now you're like, well, that's just a part of who I am. That's Daz. That's my makeup. Next year we're going on top of that, which is exciting. And it's just, we build this incredible foundation to create a life that we're excited to live and really proud of living.
Yeah. It's, for me, it's the empowerment that came from that. Like, you've been up all night, you get to the gym, and then you do the work, and then you go, okay, so I just did this. What else could I do? Like, and it's like those little baby steps and building on and building on and building on to the point where I say, okay, I'm way stronger than I realized I was. And we're going back to where I was in the dark place I was in. It was, like I had this massive Scotch cabinet and I finished all the bottles.
One out there.
I'd done a lot of travel overseas, so I got to the duty free and I stopped buying it because I had so much. But like within 6 months, they were gone because I was drinking me every night. And like just this building on this habits got to a point where I said, I'm way stronger than I give myself credit for. And then I started becoming confident in myself, and I could do more, and I could throw some stuff over the fence. And then there's the like kind of the old adage of like throw your hat over the fence. I think it comes from the idea is like you throw your hat over the fence and you have to go get it. Sure. And so I've been doing that a lot lately, where I discovered I had power. I discovered I had, like, I could do more than I thought. So I was like, okay, well, let's just throw it a little bit further.
How does that feel, though, discovering that, like, or just starting to believe that?
It feels amazing because, coming from a background of bullying and stuff like that, I just had this internal dialogue. I wasn't worthy, and I wasn't the strongest kid in school. I wasn't the fastest. So it was just all this, like, you can't, I can't. I'm not good enough. I'm not. So, that was the world I lived in, and discovering power in that, and being like, you know what, I am stronger than I think. And I'm not talking about muscle strength. I'm being like, I'm more resilient than what I think. And when I set my mind to it, and I'd be like, I'm going to have integrity with this, and it's like, I did or I didn't. And I'm going to stick at it for a period. Then I discover I could do more. Like, I could do more. I could set a goal, and that I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'll find the strength to get there, and building on and stuff like that. It's just this kind of beautiful cycle that you get more and more empowered in your own strength and the ability to overcome things. Yeah.
Beautiful. Sorry, beautiful place to live. Throat's getting all croaky there.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, for me, even hearing that, like, it gives me goosebumps, because I love seeing people realize that we do have more potential and more power than, unfortunately, a lot of us believe about ourselves. I've been there, and I'm sure you still have your days where it's, you wake up and you're like, fuck, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can do this. But once then you get back into your routine and your habit, and you shake yourself out of it, which is why I think habits and community and also direction are such powerful, important things to once get overcoming that feeling fulfilled and everything like that.
Yeah.
What, for yourself, like, I want to get two scenarios so people can sort of relate to one or the other, but I think that we'll be able to establish two pretty powerful and clear differences. But go back to before, when the back problem was an issue and you weren't really, that was your identity, that's who you were.
Yep.
What was the outlook like for your life? Like, if you can remember back to that, like, where did you see your future going back then?
Yeah, so the almost certain future was that I spent my kids' childhood on the ground, not playing with them, not able to run with them, not able to really, to be the dad that, my dad was to me, like, and just, I just saw myself spiraling out of control with alcohol and stuff like that, because, that's who I was. I was like, okay, I'm the guy that, lies on the ground, drinks alcohol and, just falls asleep drinking himself to sleep. And, that's who I was. Right. So yeah, that was my almost certain future. That was what I was staring down. So, I was not happy with that future, but I didn't know how to change it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And for anyone sitting there, like, that if you hadn't, I guess, been at that men's circle and had someone say that to you, that got you thinking, hey, maybe I can be differently. Yeah. Do you think anything would have changed?
I don't think so. No, I think it took someone else to kind of show me the blind spot that I didn't see.
Yep.
Yeah. I was in my own world and my own view of things, and that was it, and this is the way it is. And, and someone pointed out a blind spot and, like, hit me in the face.
So awesome that you took it on board, though, and you weren't reactive to it. You were, receptive to understanding it and receiving it. I think that's also what highlights why, for everyone who's even listening to this, like, you guys are, and ladies, are doing brilliantly, because you're investing in yourself. You're listening to conversations that I'm sure even what Daz has been saying here now has been sparking thoughts and maybe highlighting things in your own life that maybe challenges or giving you an opportunity to look at things differently, which I think is extremely powerful, but also investing time in, for me, the people I spend time around, if they don't challenge me, empower me, or make me feel valued and heard, and obviously want that to be reciprocated, I don't want to spend a lot of time with them. And it's not due to the fact I feel like I'm better or worse. It's just I believe there's so much value in having good people around you. So, and that's obviously what you've done as well. But take us to now, obviously, with the outlook and the mindset that you have, where do you see your future going?
So it's interesting because there's a lot in that, and I'll kind of explain it now. We can unpack it a bit.
Yeah, we got time.
Unpack it a bit. So, the big thing I think around the positive habits and in where I'm picking my positive habits is actually from a North Star. So it's like, where am I going in 5 years? This is what you said before. And picking what is my ultimate purpose and kind of going towards that. And for me, where I am now, I've set a goal and a purpose, and I'm sort of got to the point now where I'm kind of like, I'm going to throw it so far out there that it's going to cause me to be better. Because anything that I'm putting in front of me right now or making decisions with it's usually inside of my wheelhouse of what I currently have, and which also doesn't cause me to step further. So for me, it's like, hey, there's my North Star, and I set my North Star out as being, being a leader in the energy transition in Australia, but also having a meaningful impact on 100,000 men within 5 years through Weapon. And that's a lot of people, and meaningful impact means that they come to one of our events, and so there's a lot of events. It's a lot of events. I think we worked it out as like 184 events a week or something like that. So the big numbers. Yeah. But by putting it so far out there, it's caused me to think differently, like think outside the box, be like this. And so those little habits and being like, I can hold integrity to myself and I can grow and I can be better, gave me the empowerment to go, I probably can throw it out that far and just and step into it and then be like, I am stronger than I think I am. And so what life looks like for me right now, where I'm, from that 2019 to now, is I have a very solid North Star, and all of my decisions are guided by that. So what's a positive habit right now that's going to step me forward today, that's going to be on track tomorrow, that's going to be on track next week, on next month, this year, to achieve that goal? And that's kind of where I set my life by now. So for everything now, it's like, I'm doing father, work, Weapon, all these other things, should I take on CrossFit? I don't know.
Yes. Yeah.
Is that going to get me to my goal is the thing, right? And so all of my decisions, and then I choose a positive habit to support that. And so, and it's the book, like One Thing by Gary Keller, was transformative in my life in the last year, is along with a lot of the work I've done and personal development. But that one was kind of like, what is your one thing today? What are you doing today? That's the most important thing you should be doing right now, and get that done first. And that's how I'm going. But how do I decide my one thing is, where's my North Star? Because every journey is taken. Every journey is started by the first step, right? And you do 10,000 steps, but a first step in the wrong direction is 10,000 steps in the wrong direction. Yeah,
bang on there.
Yeah. And so a lot of overwhelming feelings that I have about myself or doing things actually came from doing things that weren't on target with my purpose. Yeah.
There are many people out there who don't have their North Star, right? They feel directionless. They feel like they're stuck in a rut.
Yeah.
What was the process you went through to find that?
It was a lot of discovery about looking at myself as to what my values were, and then kind of looking at, who I'd become and how I was acting with a certain bunch of things, and being like, okay, if I distilled this down into not a job or not owning a certain thing, but just a way of being or something like that, what would that look like? And that took a fair bit of work, and there was a fair bit of giving myself time, just being like, okay, what does this look like? What does this look like? And I actually spent a fair bit of time alone. Now, when I say a fair bit of time alone, how did I get that time with kids? It was 5 in the morning.
In the car, yeah.
Or sat in the car, or waited until they fell asleep, or holding the baby in the 4 in the morning. But it was just kind of like, what do we, who do I actually want to be? Like, who do I want to occur to other people as, and my children? I want my children to look up to me and go, that's Dad. That's who he is. And that set my North Star, and it was values, and it was, how I wanted to occur to people. And I wanted to occur to someone is with integrity, with power, and leadership, and a man of my word. And that's kind of the way I set all my goals now, is how I occur.
Thanks for sharing that. That's fucking cool to listen to, because there's, one of the biggest things that I feel like comes up a lot in conversation is people feel like they lack direction and they really don't know how to go about it. And as with everything, there's no one size fits all. So it's awesome to hear that process for you, but I couldn't agree more. I think people need to spend some time alone, maybe read some different things, take some courses like you did, be around good people, but just checking on what you value and what you value right now. So you may not value in 10 years time, which is completely okay. Yeah. But for right now, that might help you take that first step or do that one thing in order, you'll go through this process where you learn stuff about you. Like, think about how much you and I have learned since we first got connected. Like, I've learned a ton, and, some great things, some bad things, but it's all helping me to grow towards being a better, or what I believe is a better person. And I'm sure you're probably in the same boat, but we wouldn't have got there had we not just at one point in our life just gone, this is me drawing the line in the sand, and this is what I'm working towards as a person, and these are the habits that I feel currently are going to allow me to get there.
Yeah, definitely. And discovering that North Star took, the overwhelm factor away. Yeah. And I think as much as I've learned since we've known each other, I've learned much more that I don't know what I don't know. And there's so much more I don't know. And therefore that could occur as overwhelming. And yeah. And it just gets, that's kind of where the imposter syndrome comes. You just realize you don't know how much you don't know. And so, but for me, it's the overwhelm factor that I was feeling and in life and just general was because I actually was just doing things that weren't in line with my purpose. Like, it's like I wasn't, doing this thing over here, helping this person, or like having, doing this thing to help this person. Well, I feel like I'm like supporting them and, I'm integrity and like, is that in line with my purpose, or is that just me just trying to look good, helping someone? And often it's on me trying to look good, not in line with my purpose. And sometimes
ego.
Yeah. I was like, I'm helping someone. Actually, no, I'm trying to look good. I've got an ego.
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, I'm only doing that to look good. Is it in line with my purpose and where I'm going? Or should I actually respectfully decline something and say, hey, no, look, I've got to focus on this. And as you said, you're focusing on your wife, your family, or something like that. And that's kind of where I'm living now is a review. We're looking at everything and kind of going, when am I trying to look good? Should I be doing this? Is it the right thing to do now? Is it in line with my purpose? Is this going to support me going forward? Man, I fall off all the time, right? I've not got this perfect at all, but like having the kind of the snap out of it and go, yeah, I should be doing this now. Yeah, I should not be doing this. Or I've got to go tell that person that I actually can't.
Yep. And
previously to this work I've been doing, I actually would have just done it because I said, I'm not going to let this person down. But now I'll go back to them and say, hey, look, I've got to let you know that I've said I would do something and I can't.
Yeah.
And this is why. And this is this is where I'm going. And I really apologize for saying I could, but I can't.
Yep.
Yeah. And that gives me absolute power because now I'm like strong in my decisions, but also giving them like, hey, this is where it is. I'm not letting them down because I'm actually saying why rather than just not showing up.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's hard to do. Like even talking about it now, I can think about so many moments in my life where you know the right thing to do, but sometimes you'll still carry through. And for me, it always shows up in meetings and interactions because I love sitting down with people. I think it's so fun and you get to learn. But I also know I got a wife and I got I hardly ever get to see my friends because I'm always so busy.
Yeah.
But then I think about how many interactions am I actually having that while they're awesome and I enjoy them, it's still not moving towards my purpose or how I want to be remembered as a mate. So it's taking, I guess, as you sort of touched on earlier, where you take time by yourself to check in on that regularly, whether it's through meditation, going for a walk by yourself, sitting there at 4 a.m. with your daughters, just chilling out. Like there's many ways we can do it, but it's also, some people just don't like that alone time, which that's completely fine. But I still think it's something very important that people need to get comfortable with, because otherwise we can, take a wrong step in the wrong direction. If we keep taking that step, we're going to be much further away from where we wanted to be.
First time I was alone with myself, it was a scary thing. I realized I did not like me. So, I jumped into a float tank with no preparation, man. 90 minutes of hell.
How insane. They're like an anxiety chamber. Hey,
man, it was just like someone turned the kettle on. Yeah, it's just like, this is the worst thing I could have ever done.
You're not wrong, man.
Yeah, I was like, why did I sign up for the 90-minute version? Yeah. And so I realized I really did not know how to be alone.
Yep.
And getting comfortable with that has been really, really powerful. And I think, I can't remember what religion it is, but the monkey brain, they talk about it. And it's amazing to realize that you're not actually that monkey brain.
Yep.
And it can be quietened fractions of time. But once you do quieten it, like real truths come through. And when I did that first float, like for like 90 minutes, just everything was wrong. Eh? It's like, you're not good enough. All these things just came up, and I just went, whoa. The only reason it's always there, but there's other things like vision.
We distract ourselves, right?
Yeah. I was like, wow, this was hectic. I don't want to do that again. And I got very comfortable over the last 2 years with that silence.
Yeah.
Sitting, being quiet, quietening that mind and finding clarity. And it does occur for people. They just don't realize. It's that time when you just get up in the morning, you have a shower, and it's like the amazing thing. Or you walk up and you're doing a workout, and you can't think of anything. The mind goes quiet. And you're like, this would be a great business idea, or this would be like a great menu, or or you're driving and you completely don't remember how you got there, but all of a sudden there's this clarity, and that's when those moments happen. And when you can master that, I don't have it mastered, but when you can get better at like sitting in that silence, it gives that subconscious ability to come forward and say, here's a good idea. Yeah.
It's definitely, I couldn't agree more, whether it's going for a walk or anything like that, but I love it. To be honest, like even tonight, Amy's out, so it's just me time. I got a good book. I'm just going to chill out and meditate. Like I normally lay down here and meditate, which is weird, but it's my jam. Because I love, like I'm at a point in my life, and I feel you are as well, where I actually just love my own company. I love what my brain's, sometimes I had a float tank 6 weeks ago, and I got in there for the first time in maybe 2 years, and it was an anxiety chamber. It was fucking scary. I was like, But then, I've been going back quite regularly now, and I'm starting to get back to that process where I'm like, this is incredible. But one thing I wanted to touch on, which and I haven't really spoken about this publicly a lot, but when we're talking about checking egos, like you gave me a really good opportunity to check my ego. When we used to run men's circles, right, and then you guys started running it, that was one of the most challenging experiences for me as a I guess even outside of the realm of sport, because I'd never been tested with how important I thought I was. And when you guys started running men's circles as well, all this shit went through, a whole heap of stuff came up. I was like, what are these guys doing? I thought we were in this together, a whole heap of voice. And it was the first time I was sat there, and I had a really good mentor who slapped me in the fucking face with it, which was amazing. To have this opportunity to sit with myself and check in and be like, how important do you really think you are? You should be championing, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's not coming out. Championing. Yeah. There we go. This kind of stuff, and getting behind it rather than thinking that it's taking away from you. And I think I do talk about this part. Like I got into a personal development. I got a personal development ego where I thought I was superior to people because I'd read more books, I'd attended more events, I'd spent more money on myself, all this sort of hoo-ha bullshit. And I realized that the work never stops through that moment. I realized, at this point I thought, I'm good with everything. I'm good with my anger. I'm good with my identity. But you get challenged in certain ways and stuff pops up.
Yeah.
And it was really hard for me to deal with for, I reckon, 3 months. It was the biggest challenge for me to deal with, because as a bloke, you're an incredible person. But then there was part of me that was like, how I would have used to have responded would be just to cut everyone out and act like a little boy, which I did do to a degree. So I think even having you on here today is a really exciting time for me personally, because I've had to let go of stuff over, and not just with this situation, so many things in my life that I've always held on to, because it's made me feel, I don't know, it's just made me feel tough by being able to hold grudges and stuff like that. But I've also learned that it hasn't served things. I've missed out on plenty of opportunities, plenty of conversations, and plenty of progress because of my own shit, because of my own ego. So I wanted to bring that back up because we were speaking about it. You touched on ego just before. I was like, ego for me is still a big thing. And I even know to this day, like when I've had people co-run events and stuff, there's still a part of me that's, I'm like, I want to be recognized. I want to be seen. Yeah. But then days in the office, I'm like, I don't want to be seen. I want to have someone else be seen. So I'm like, I've got this internal battle.
Yeah.
But, you know, you gave me that opportunity to fucking stare down the barrel at it, which had that not have happened, who knows what would have happened, right? Like, I think I would have been flying in my hot air balloon thinking I'm fucking made of gold. Maybe not that, but like, you know, I would have been on a different trajectory, than having to deal with some of those challenges. But I'm also very grateful. Like I said, I have really good support networks around me that when I want to voice things, they can give me either a pat on the back or a punch in the ribs, depending on what's needed at that point in time.
Yeah, it's like how attached were you to the outcome rather than committed to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because, you know, like somehow we've moved into this spot in Newstead where there's like for every 100 people, there's 20 performance coaches. And like, you know, other groups doing the same thing. And we went through something similar, like, you know, with other brands, like, and other groups like mimicking like the sessions that we run and, like attached to the outcome, and then realizing the fact is the problem is so much bigger than us. Like, you know, like we're making this all about us. And, you know, like when we actually look at the statistics and the amount of men struggling and women struggling out there in the space, is like we should be supporting everyone. Like we should be out there and going, hey man, how can I support you to do this? Because we need as much help as we can. And I went through the same thing. You know, we trained up, you know, we're working on training up someone else, and then, you know, replicated what we're doing. But it's interesting about what you said about like, you know, hey, we started doing something, because at that time I was so like, you know, Lockie needs to do all this talking. I've got nothing to talk about, you know, like I'm not someone that anyone wants to hear. And I was like, oh no, like I was just, this is it. Like, you know, we probably gonna have to change purpose now, because I can't do this talking. I've got nothing to share, and I've got nothing to talk about. And, I went on a real discovery of being like, I've got to fill that spot with someone. So over the couple of years, I tried to find someone else to fill that spot. And over that time, you know, this same period for me, actually, I shared this with you before, actually became a discovery that I actually have something to share, and I can actually share something. And I didn't actually have to be someone that had a huge amount of background and training and stuff like that. It's just like, this is just what happened. Like I went through this breakdown in 2015. I had this catatonic event where I couldn't get myself off the ground. All the electronics like freaked me out. It took me rang my wife and said, we need to go to the bush. Just get me away from everything. Just left everything behind. I was just cooked. Like my brain was hot. And coming back to work the next week, I did like 5 hours and just walked out. And it took me over a month to kind of like get to a 8-hour day. And that was kind of the premise and the start of this. I kind of like, I need to do more. But I didn't feel that I could share that. Like I didn't feel that was like good enough to be out in the space and sharing about it. And what I thought I needed to be is I thought I needed to be trained and have all these experiences and be able to talk like you and like, you know, do all these things. And I went through the process, I realized I don't actually have to be a guru. I just have to be sharing authentically with what happened.
But I think that's what makes guru, right? Yeah. I think it's that imposter syndrome, right? Yeah. I remember so prior to the Man That Can, I was doing network marketing, and you know Ben Kelly, yeah?
Yeah.
So I still remember watching Benny on stage, and he was a bricklayer, I was a chippy, and when he spoke, I was like, that's who I want to be, and I made that decision that I was going to speak on stage. And that next sort of day, you're like, well, why would anyone want to listen to me? It's much like I was actually talking to someone a couple of days ago. I remember I wanted to have access to people from all walks of life. And then some people just would never respond to me. Some people would never talk to me. And rather than going, oh, fuck, it's not going to work, I took the ownership of it, and I was like, well, how do I make myself valuable enough for these people to actually want to spend some time around me?
Yeah.
And that's when I really dove in to personal development and upskilling professionally and in various other ways, building my network, reaching out, doing all of that sort of stuff. And it has slowly over time chipped away to improve my network and improve who I get to or sorry, not improve, but like give me access to different people who are successful in various things that I'm not, which has been a fun experience. But I still to this day have moments where I'm like, I don't feel qualified to talk about this, or why does my opinion matter on this sort of stuff? But then when you put it out there, there's someone somewhere who goes, that was fucking bang on. There's also 20 other people who let you fucking know that they don't agree with you.
Yeah.
But I think, I love the fact that you share your story. I'm so grateful to be able to do a podcast because we get blokes all the time coming on sharing their story. And I'm so fucking fascinated with some of the stuff that people go through, or even just how they perceive things. Sometimes I'm like, that's ridiculous. And other times I'm like, you've just changed my whole way of viewing that, which that's why I think more people should stop feeling like you need to be a guru. Yes, there is a time and a place for gurus and practitioners and everything, 100%. But as blokes, and also for the ladies that listen to this, when you're with your friends or when you're just hanging around people at events, don't let that hold you back from a good conversation. Like you're going to fumble. You're going to maybe make some mistakes. Sometimes people extend the truth a little bit, but like just practice it, reflect on the experience, and you'll get better at telling your story. You'll find out what are the important things that, have the most, I guess, transformative experience for people to hear. And you'll find out the stuff that you can declutter so you're not talking for hours.
Yeah.
It's a fun process.
Yeah, and one of the things I'm really committed to is changing the social norms around sharing. Like, and that's really something that men struggle with. Is actually what sharing authentically is, and it's almost impossible not to listen to someone when they're really authentic. Like, this is actually what happened for me. This is what the impact was, and you just get into it. You're just like, whoa. Someone's exaggerating, telling some massive story, telling a furphy, you kind of generally feel it.
Oh,
you kind of, you're just like, oh. But when someone's just going authentic, deep, you're just in it. And when you're in those men's circles and you're sitting there listening to someone open up and share stuff that they've never shared before and on a deep, deep level, you just feel so connected. And I've found that I've felt like I've known those people for 20 years after sitting with them a couple of times.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I just know you like we've known each other for so long, but it's actually that connection that occurs when you're really authentic, really, really deeply what's actually going on inside you. And that's where we talked about at a party or something like that, actually generally sharing, like you're actually generally talking about what may be going on for you or how the impact of something and just talking on that authentic level. And I think that's what I discovered. I literally didn't need to have a way to fix people. I just needed to say what was going on for me. Like, that's all I needed to do. And I'd be like, hey, this happened. This was the impact. I was in this dark spot and like this happened. And people are like, whoa, that's intense, or that's amazing. Or like, this happened for me. And just this whole thing just spreads out, and this conversation, this connection happens. And not one did someone try and fix us. We just all shared what happened for ourselves. Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that, because I think it's so important for other men out there to realize that, because once again, it's easy for us to say, just talk. Like, it's reach out to a mate. Are you okay? All those things are great initiatives, but there's also the thing between our ears that holds a lot of us back. Then we make up a whole heap of stories. As you said, I'm not worthy, or why would anyone want to listen to me? I'm not a guru. So, and when in the reality, as you said, it's like, none of that fucking matters.
Yeah.
Just talk. What's happening? Like, tell me what's going on in your life. And I think one of the reasons why with men's circles, I always make people introduce just their name, because once they just do that, 10 minutes later, they're still talking.
Yeah.
Like, but it's always that initial, if I don't have to say anything, I won't.
Yeah.
But if I say my name, I've just turned on the taps. Here we go. And yeah, like you said, you get to find out more about about this person than most other people will in their life in the space of a 90-minute session.
Yeah, and it's amazing when those men realize, how much their conversation is ruled by looking good. And when they let go of that looking good inside of that space and they feel safe, the floodgates open. But people really get to know them. Like some of the closest bonds have come from those circles. But we go for a burger afterwards or something like that, and you just literally can be with those people, and you just feel connected. And it's because we dropped the looking good and we just had an authentic conversation.
I wish everyone could experience it. Like, if anyone out there gets the opportunity, wherever you're at, like, there's so many men's groups around the world now. Like, you guys are doing men's circles. We do a lot of it. There's heaps in the States. They're fucking everywhere. Just, I think, type in men's group wherever you are and you'll find something out there, because it's can be daunting to go to. I 100% get that, but you'll walk away feeling so empowered, so fucking energized, and you'll be going, when's the next one? Like, that's how it's always been for me.
Yeah, it is. And sitting in those circles, I'm always blown away. Like, I've never been to one where I'm not like, this is like vibing, because, you know, the connection and what people are sharing, and people come up to you afterwards and say, I've never shared that with anyone. Like, you know, ever. Like, that was the deepest thing ever. And then, like, you know, this bloke's talking about something that, you know, is occurring to him as the most biggest thing in like life, and to other people that might not be, but to him it was so governing in his life. He just needed to get the words out of his mouth, and he'd never actually said the words because it was all in his head.
Yeah.
And that's just an incredibly safe space to have. And sometimes when I do verbalize something, I really get a lot of clarity, and I think that men's circles give you that.
Definitely. Yeah. Let's jump onto this.
Sure.
Because we're flying through time. What are we at? Can't even see. 55. Yeah, perfect. We're on track, guys.
Awesome.
But so obviously with Weapon, where you guys have apparel, I'm going to train in some stuff. I've already trained this morning, but I will train again tomorrow morning, as I do every day. But you're moving to women's wear as well, which is pretty exciting for you guys.
Yeah, yeah.
One thing I want to know, and I think is probably cool to share with everyone, is obviously the Weapon identity has been based around blokes for a long period of time. How was it coming to the decision that you wanted to, I guess, start doing stuff for the ladies as well, and how did it all come about?
Actually, I was in a course, and I was in a landmark course, and it was a self-expression and leadership course, and it was talking about responsibility and also like taking ownership for stuff, and you know, we went around the room and like kind of wrote circles of like, you know, who, you know, the Weapon group and the gym group and friends and family, and like, you know, I kind of looked at my whole life, and I went, you know, and they said like, you know, what are you doing to, you know, transform those people or contribute to that, or like, you know, help those communities. And, you know, I went around and wrote all these things for like Weapon and gym and stuff like that. And then there was just like women in every group that I had nothing written next to. Like, I just realized that I had so many women in my life, and, you know, like we were doing men's circles and men's groups and men's training. And I went, I've got 2 daughters, a wife, a mum, a sister.
What are you doing?
Where I'm like, see you guys, we're going to a mental health men's circle, but you sort your own stuff out. Yeah. And I was and I looked at it and I went, actually, you know what? I'm actually really fearful of this. I feel I've created a story that I'm fearful, so I can only do something for men. Because where would women want to come into something created by men? Yeah. So I created this whole massive story around it, and really what it was fearful. I was avoiding the responsibility of doing something, and I realized that, you know, to help a lot of the men in the group, we also need to provide something for the women. And the same thing in my own family with, you know, I've got 2 daughters and my wife, and, you know, there was me doing all this work on myself and not realizing, because I wasn't open to this, but I did discover it in the last years, that my wife was stepping further and further back. And, you know, I took responsibility for that and said, look, I'm going to be a stand for you to give you time to work on yourself as well. And we worked on it together, but I went, actually, we want to go further than that. Let's create a movement that you also can get the same, you know, women's circles, the same support and the same sort of movement around it. And let's create something amazing for our daughters. And we sort of just had this amazing kind of moment together where we're like, imagine if we could create something where our daughters feel empowered by and feel they're just like, this is the movement our parents created, you know, and it's created something for men, something for women, and something that the women can be, you know, it is the word empowerment. That's actually our underlying thing. But I was just like this kind of clarity moment, and we just went, wow, we really could make a difference here in for both men and women. And so for me, for that, I went, okay, don't know how I'm going to do this, but let's start it. And so we just went, let's throw a thing over the fence. And we started interviewing a whole bunch of women saying, hey, look, what would this look like to you? How would you want a brand to look like if you could craft it? Like, if you were given the opportunity, what would it look like to you? And we interviewed a whole bunch of women and worked with them in focus groups and talked to them about how they would like the messaging to be, and that got to a point where we landed on the word empowerment. And that's kind of like the underlying motto is we raising awareness for mental health in the same way a weapon is. We're changing the social norms around speaking openly, but in the women's line is about empowerment.
Is it still called Weapon?
So it's going to be called SORA.
SORA, okay.
Yeah, and so the idea is that there is going to be two identities. There's like the male.
What's SORA mean?
It's actually Latin for sister.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah. So we started.
SORA.
We started with circle and some other words and found that like pretty much everyone's like trademarked that.
Yeah.
And surprisingly enough, not SORA. So it means sister in empowerment and in your sisterhood and stuff like that. So like that kind of really rang true for me, like, women's groups and stuff like that. And my wife went to all these women's mother groups during her early on in the pregnancy, and they were so important to her. And I just really would love that sort of thing to be available to her after the initial period as well, like, more women's groups. And that's kind of the idea behind it is making great apparel and also creating a movement behind it.
That's brilliant. That's very exciting. So, and that launches January, right?
Yeah, they'll be launching January. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking I might hold this episode to the launch date or something, so then we can put all the links. Or do you reckon we'll figure that out off
Yeah,
there?
figure that out.
I was just, my brain was like, when's the best time going to be to launch this? But you've got a website up and everything for that now, or
It'll be officially going like, hey, this is what we're doing on the 20th of December. So we actually drop it.
You guys get the sneak peek then.
Sneak peek, yeah. So we're dropping it the 20th of December. You can't buy until January, but the idea is to kind of like, build momentum and stuff behind it and get behind it. So there's a fair amount of work to put in.
I can imagine.
So the idea will be that, come next year when we walk into a lot of these CrossFit competitions, there'll be a full guys and girls team, which has been one of the big things that we've sort of struggled with, is that we could always get out the guys and run guys events, but we never had a women's event.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. So especially a lot of the team events are guys and girls, right?
Yeah, so we would go into these gyms and go, hey, look, we've got this amazing product for guys, and then they're like, what do you do for the girls? And we're like, oh, we don't have anything. And they're like, oh, okay.
We make their guys look good.
Yeah. So now we actually can go to them and say, hey, look, we've got like a guys and a girls thing. And same thing with corporates. Like, if we were doing events with corporates, they're like, well, we wanted an event for women as well. So now we can combine them. And we have another event called Section, which is actually a slightly different version. That's kind of like, what does it look like to operate a team? And that already involves women. Yep. And so again, great that we can bring a movement for both sexes. And I'm really excited about it because, guys take a lot of encouraging to get behind something. You'd be experiencing this.
Fucking hell, mate.
Yeah. And the excitement around the SORA is ecstatic. And so I'm getting a lot of energy and a lot of excitement around it. I'm really excited about it because, I think it's going to go really well.
Why do you think that is? Just quickly, I guess I've got two questions for you. This one and then the one that I always ask people. Yeah. But why do you think that is? Because I think we touched on this when we were on the phone a while back, but I find girls engage in more stuff on my social media than the blokes do. Even talking to blokes, I feel like blokes sit back, take it in, but they never really engage in conversation. I think that in itself is one of the things that is holding us back because we're worried about judgment and ridicule and all those sorts of things. But we need to be having these conversations to grow. Why do you, and from your experience, do you feel that could be happening?
I think it's back to that social norms thing. Like, it's like, in looking good. And it's like, if I go and try this thing, I'm going to get judged for it. I experienced my wife walking into a shop without knowing what it is. And I look at it and go, do I trust this shop? If I'm going to be seen in this, she'll just walk in and try it out. And
I never thought of it like that, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Watch your wife shopping and but she'll go and discover things and I'll be sitting there going, I'm in safe mode. None of this stuff,
Yeah, I know my shops. I'm only going to them.
But she discovers things and she finds these things and I find that in interacting with men, we require a lot more convincing or a lot more mates to kind of say, hey, you should try this, or these touch points and stuff like that. And often it is back to the kind of looking bad. You know, if your mate goes and says it's okay to go do something, you go, okay, probably okay. But if you go and try something, sorry, I'm projecting this, but like, let's say I'll take it back to myself, I'll own this. If I go and say, I'm going to try this new pair of shoes, I'm going to start wearing sandals with like high legs, you know, I'm afraid I'm going to get judged, right? You know, that's where I'm standing, right? You know, but if my other mate's wearing them as well, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. This has probably got some like, yeah, we'll probably do it together. Like, yeah, cool. All right. So I find that this quite often happens in this space is that we're not wanting to look bad, and so we won't comment on posts, we won't put ourselves out there, we won't share authentically because we're really afraid of like just looking bad.
Blokes, we got to do it. Like, there has to be those leaders. And it's that video on YouTube of the dude at the rave. Have you seen the one on top of the hill where he's just dancing in the mud, ridiculous dancing? And then it's like awkward for like 2 minutes and someone else joins him and everyone's like, and then all of a sudden you've just got this massive dance party on the hill. It's like that, you know, there's going to be a few brave faces, but you're going to lead the way for other people. And we desperately need these conversations to be happening because more blokes out there want more direction, they want more fulfillment, they want more satisfaction from their life. So if you have been in the boat and maybe you have that now, or if you're even looking for that, be a part of the conversation.
Yeah. And asking a question is important. And because there's so many other people go, geez, I wish I asked that question. Yeah. Like I'm just too afraid to, or, you know, that gave me the power to ask the next question. And it's the people that kind of just throw the hat in that support the other people. And then there's just like an avalanche or waterfall that occurs.
What's your definition of being a man?
I'm not really sure. That's challenging. Yeah. I've never really thought about that. It's
one of my favorite questions. I'll give you context, and if you've never really thought about it, the reason why I ask everyone is because I feel everyone hopefully has a unique definition, because some bloke out there somewhere will resonate to yours, because I'm fucking over as we all are, that generic, this is what a bloke should be, because it's clearly not worked for us as men. So it'd be cool to hear what your, I guess, idea or perception of that would be.
Okay, big breath. That's the deepest breath I've thought. So now, when I think about it from me, it's that my definition of a man for me, or who I want to be, is someone that's authentic, someone that has integrity, and someone that's not afraid to look bad. And obviously someone that fights for their values, you know, stands up for what they believe in, but also respects other people's values and boundaries, and have an understanding that the world occurs differently to everyone. If you're colorblind, a strawberry is not a strawberry.
Very good point.
Yeah.
You don't, even just thinking about that, I'm like, I was listening to something on gratitudes earlier, but even not taking moments like that for granted, the fact that we can actually see, taste, smell a strawberry, when there are some people out there. This is a complete segue, but like there's some people out there who can't do that. So even when you're having a really rough day, like if you have the ability to listen to a podcast, to come home to a loving partner, to have running water, like there's things to be grateful for.
All the time. Yeah.
But that time has flown. I'm actually heading to the function hall, the presents there, that we're taking that to the kids today.
Oh, wow. Cool.
So that'll be good fun.
Exciting.
Yeah, it should be good fun.
Yeah.
But mate, thank you so much for coming on. Where can everyone find out you personally, but then also Weapon and all of that sort of stuff?
Yeah. So I'm trying to make a lot more presence now because I'm owning my responsibility, but WPNwear.com and our Instagram as well, which is WPN.
That'll be in the show notes for everyone who doesn't want to have to type that out. Yeah, no, it's not as long.
Yeah, SORA Active is the women's wear that'll be joining us.
And how do you spell it?
SORA.
Yeah, I thought so. Simple. I can do that one.
That was the goal.
But mate, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure, and it was a really, really enjoyable chat. Well, gents, if you got value from that episode and you enjoyed the conversation, remember, please take a moment to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, or even just hit that share button, tag the Man That Can Project, because the more you do that, the more validation it gives to those people who are looking for new podcasts out there, or even blokes who are just looking to take their life to that next level. And obviously we can provide that for the right blokes at the Man That Can Project. So have an incredible Christmas once again, and I look forward to you listening in again next week. Thank you for listening to the Man That Can Project podcast. My name is Lachlan Stuart, and I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful. If you did, please take a moment to rate and review the Man That Can Project on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with our newest episodes. We'll see you again next time.